Hi, I'm David Souaid from OnDeck Canada. Join me on the S.M.E podcast.
You are now listening to the next great small business podcast. Welcome to the S.M.E Stories podcast, where it is all about small businesses in Canada. And here's your host, Ken Alfred.
Hey everybody, thanks for joining the show. We got a great episode today with David Souaid. Now, David Souaid is the Chief Revenue Officer at OnDeck Canada. So a little bit about David. David is the co-founder and president of Velocity Financial Group, which is now OnDeck Canada. David brings over 20 years of experience in the fintech industry and is a driving force behind platform solutions, distribution, and product marketing initiatives. Before OnDeck Canada, David was Senior Vice President of Sales and Marketing at Optimal Payments Incorporated. He later became the co-founder and president of the Sterling Card Payment Solutions. Before starting Velocity Financial Group, he has been recognized for his thought leadership as a top 25 executive leader in lending by the Canadian Lenders Association, the CLA. David's passion for fintech extends beyond his professional career as he actively supports the startup community and empowers women in business through his work with Startup Canada and the Women Founders Fund. David also serves as chair of the Miss Edgar School Foundation, where his daughters attend. His passion for fintech's future and its impact on entrepreneurship is evident through his involvement in various initiatives that support innovation and growth in the industry. So it's going to be an interesting episode today, guys. We're going to go more on some of the lending and access to capital. So it's going to be an interesting episode. So sit back and absorb. Okay, we're going to hit tips from the pro now. So now this is more specific to someone looking to get into maybe some small business lending himself. Some listener questions on these ones. So we'll just start asking them out here. So question number one for you, David. What are some red flags when you start your own lending practice?
Red flags as it relates to starting the business, or red flags as it relates to individual customers and underwriting and making a credit decision?
I'll start with the first one, and then we can answer the second one too.
Okay, I'd say the biggest red flags you need to be aware of is one, make sure you have access to capital. Number one, it's the most important thing, right? At the end of the day, you're a lender, so you need to be well capitalized, and you need to make sure you have it at the right cost of capital. It's the number one thing you have to be careful of.
Okay, and the second part, when you're underwriting a potential client,
I think it's really looking at their cash flow and their cash flow statements and their personal and commercial credit. If there's any red flags as it relates to those things, it causes us, to question and look at the file maybe a little different. So those are some of the areas that we look at when we underwrite files.
So for those who are looking to maybe apply for any type of funding, having the cleanest statements is probably the best option.
Right.
Versus, because if, like you said, if David or someone on his team has questions, sometimes that's not really a good thing, right? I mean, I don't know if you've ever seen an application where it was just so picture perfectly clear. You're like, how did you get it so clean?
Yeah.
To the point where there's no questions. Because usually, like, I've never underwritten anything, right? So to the average Joe, so when you're underwriting an application, you're basically saying, okay, here's all the prospect's information that, they want a loan of X dollars, you name the number, 100,000, 50,000, whatever. And when you're underwriting, you're kind of going through their statements to find out, okay, what are the risks in there? Like, are they paying the bills? Are they paying everything on time? Have they hit, overdrafts or anything I'm sure there's more complicated stuff than that, right? So there's stuff, as clean as you can have it would make it the best probably situation here. So, okay. Now, next question. Are there any federal or provincial licenses when you start this practice?
There are actually no federal or provincial licenses when you start this practice. There are some licensing requirements in Saskatchewan, but they're limited in nature. But generally speaking, no, there's no federal and provincial license required.
Yeah, because I think in the States might be a little bit more challenging. I think there's certain laws there. So it actually rolls up to my next one. Next question from listeners. Are there any rules when collecting money from clients?
Yeah, there are some collection rules and regulations, and frankly, best practices as it relates to collections. It's an area that we have to be very cautious and careful on. Obviously, we start with, how can we help you get back on track, missing payments, delayed funding. Then we move to, alternative payment plans, et cetera. And then when it gets to finally collections, then obviously we have to, work with customers, and sometimes it has to go legal, and sometimes it's a write-off. But yeah, we have have best practices, and we have some, there are some regulations around, collections and how you go about collecting.
I'm not going to ask, okay, when do you decide to write it off, what the amount is, or how much delinquency you need in order to write it off. So we're not going to ask that, because I don't want people who are trying to loan with you to say, oh, if I just not pay it for this long, they'll just write it off. Excellent. No, we're not going to do that. So
appreciate that.
So I know for someone that really wants to get involved with this, I know there are very different, there's some options with it. It's not just saying, okay, I have a bucket of money and I want to start lending it out and start making money on the money that I have. Because you hear about, there's private lending, there's hard money lending, there's peer-to-peer lending. So for someone that's really starting, I mean, is there, in your opinion, is there a general direction they should move towards?
I think it really depends on the type of lending you want to do. Some people have a lot of capital and they want a big market and they like consumer lending. Some people really know auto and they want to be specialized in auto and leasing. So to me, that's where it starts. What's your mission? Like for us, it was, how do we help small business get access to working capital that was easy, fast, frictionless? We were focused on the S.M.E customer. And so once we had that, then it was, okay, how do we get the capital we need to support that mission and vision? So that's sort of how I would answer, that question. It really depends on, the industry that you want to serve.
Well, that's how it's interesting, because yours was it's very specific to small business, which is a really big, I'm going to call it big niche, right? But I didn't realize that, maybe if I'm starting off on a smaller scale to start, that maybe just focus on auto lending, or maybe, the landscaping lending, I don't know, whatever it is,
right,
just to start off small in that respect. And then, so how do you, what are the best tips to approach when you try to raise capital, right? So for a lot of it, I don't know, and I don't know how OnDeck is it more of a private lending situation, or is it more of a hard money? Are you able to explain the differences between some of those various options?
Yeah. So for us, we have a senior credit facility, with various big six banks. Actually, I think it's public. It's with Bank of Montreal. So they're a senior credit facility that provider for us. So we're leveraging our relationship with the bank to fund directly with customers. So yes, I guess you'd call us a private lender in that regard.
Okay, perfect. So which is good to know as well, right? Because I've heard of those peer-to-peer ones and some hard money. I think when I first heard of hard money lending, I only remember it when I used to be interested in investing in real estate back then, right? Where if you wanted to, say, buy a property or something, you didn't have the money. You work with a hard money lender who but they're actually experienced real estate investors. So, they'll give you, it's going to be a little bit of a higher rate because it's their money and they're going to have a little bit of hand in the pot there. But do you see that as ever, is there any hard money lenders that's outside of the real estate space? Can it be for anything?
I don't know. I haven't seen it, but I don't know.
Yeah, because I feel like, because it's the experienced, whoever it is, it's like you're working with them and you're kind of beholden to them, right? So it is their money. So it's going to be interesting. But crowdfunding, all that other stuff, right? How hard could that be? I have no idea. Is your experience with a peer-to-peer or crowdfunding, is that even a profitable niche just to start off with, if you have trouble getting the big private money lending?
We haven't had a lot of exposure with peer-to-peer or crowdfunding. We kind of stayed in our lane, in our niche. So I don't really know much about them. I know they were popular for a while early on, especially 2010, 2015. But I think there's been a lot more regulations around peer-to-peer and it's gotten more challenging.
Well, yeah, especially with the GoFundMe. And then of course, right, during the Freedom Convoy, there was always, that kind of thing. We're not going to get into that because it's not really a political show or anything from that perspective. So yeah, that is very interesting to kind of hear about that type of stuff. So, and next question here is, what is your best strategy to deal with difficult clients?
I think be empathetic, understanding why are they being difficult, what's their issue, how can we help. I think being straightforward, hoping they understand our situation. We're there to lend funds and be repaid, and if we're not able to get repaid, okay, what is happening and how can we help? To maintain a good relationship. So I think being empathetic, being understanding, is probably the best strategy to deal with customers who are being, difficult, and then, hope they change their ways and be happier.
So what has been like your because you have associates that deal with that directly, right? Because I don't know how much you get involved with it, but have you heard of what is the basic, not excuse, but the biggest issue as to why, a customer is having trouble paying? Is it just literally like cash flow management? Did they not budget something, some freak occurrence happened or something like that? Like what do you normally hear?
There's, all kinds of issues. Sometimes there's one-time events that a customer wasn't expecting that they had to deal with. And they kind of come to us and say, look, I wasn't expecting it, work with it. We've had situations where, construction in a city, has affected, customer sales because they're redoing the roads and they're redoing the sidewalks. It's so many things. It's generally speaking, it's unexpected expenses that a small business customer wasn't expecting. They don't operate with massive margins and massive cash reserves. So, little changes here and there can really affect their cash flow and then put strain on our ability to collect. So, that's kind of the situation.
Okay. So I got a couple more questions here as well. Is that what has been your, how best to manage this, like during the startup phase for all the businesses that you've done in the past, and you can even include OnDeck as well. What is your best, work-life balance tip that you can probably give, anyone really?
I would say prioritize and compartmentalize would be my two, best pieces of advice. I think these businesses, and when you start up, can be all consuming. And so you can constantly be working and thinking about it. It's just not healthy. And so really trying to, say, what are my key issues? What do I need to prioritize? What do I need to resolve? And then compartmentalize as best you can. So at the end of the day is over, really try to go, be with your family, do something different, whatever it is to get your head out of the, that startup consuming, space so that you're re-energized the next day to kind of hit the challenges of the next day. Those would be the two.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, okay, now this is more of a lighter hearted tip from the post segment question there. There's two here. One is, what has been the smallest loan you guys have ever approved, and what is the biggest loan you've ever approved?
Smallest was 7,000. I think we made an exception where we went below the 10. So we did 7,000 was the smallest. And the biggest we've ever done was 350,000.
350,000. Okay. Interesting. All right. And, so I guess there's something special about that $7,000 loan, since it sounds like you do like a minimum 10, sounds like you said, right?
We do. We generally do a minimum of 10. We've made an exception to get to that number.
Must have been a clean statement. That must have been nice. All right. So the second question, what has been the funniest story when you guys have been running so far?
Funniest story. Another really good question.
That's why I'm here, David.
It's not that funny, but
no, it has to be funny. No, I'm kidding. But go ahead.
Relative funny. We did have a customer say hand deliver an application, like physically brought it to our offices to bring it in. I mean, we're entirely digital. I don't think that's, like I said, it's not really that funny, but we were a little bit surprised, like literally a huge stack of documents, and walked it over here, and and not that funny.
So digital company, and an applicant literally walked in with a pile of all the documents that you were requesting.
Yeah.
So I'd love to, I think it would have been funny, especially if we actually got to whoever answered the door when the customer came in and they're like, thank you. What are we supposed to, see, it's funny. See, that's what I'm talking about. Like, you just imagine it. Cause like,
exactly.
Everything's digital. What are you handing me a stack of papers for? It's like, oh, that's interesting. Like, that doesn't happen. That's only happened once, right?
Yeah, only once.
Okay. And is there anything like any wild applications that you can recall for a very unique kind of business that you never even heard of, that you're like, oh, that's a business. That's interesting.
Yeah, no, there was one that was a crypto business that was really interesting and really different. I mean, totally out of the box that we didn't expect. It was almost like a crypto platform wholesaler. Like it was a real odd combination of crypto. That's one that really comes to mind as being sort of really, really out of the box, like really out of the box for us.
Yeah, I can't even spell crypto properly because I mean, trying to watch crypto and like what's that NFT stuff, it's just over my head. I have no clue about any of that stuff now. I mean, digital currency generally, I know I've heard that we're going to become a cashless society, which I think we mostly are, but I'm still not sure if I'm on board fully of a fully crypto kind of banking system.
Yeah, I mean, I think it could have its place. I think we will be, cashless and almost already are. But I think crypto just needs some applications on a day-to-day basis where you can transact. Today, it's still sort of a wallet and a currency, and it hasn't really hit the mainstream in terms of usage of, on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, like it's interesting. I remember my former economics teacher, where he would take out his $5 bill and crumple it up. And this is back in 1997. It's like, see this cash? It's not good. And people can't see this unless you're watching the video, but I'm pretending to crumple up a $5 bill and saying that soon we're never going to use cash ever again. And everyone's like, what? You got to be kidding me. And I remember too, I used to actually sell Amway back in the day, multi-level marketing stuff. And I remember one of the funny stories is that, I had to pay $250 to do this kind of business. Now, I didn't operate it from a recruitment perspective. It was literally just like, here's the catalog of products. And I would, like everyone, you go to family and friends, you go to parties and say, I will do your shopping. So they'll buy some Q-tips here, they'll buy some cleaner here. My late grandmother actually bought one of the first digital cameras from me. And it's now people think, what's a digital camera? Well, before the phones came in, they came up with digital cameras where you can just take pictures and put it on a card. Well, this was even before that. So this digital camera, the only way you can look at the photo, yes, it had a small little screen on the camera that you can look at it, but you literally had to take two auxiliary ports of input and output and plug it into your TV. That was what the camera was. And it was an $800 camera back in 1997. And one of my late grandmothers bought it. So, I made my money from that perspective and see that now I don't know if this can help you with your collection strategy. But I had a very strong collector. It's my mother. So when family buys from me, I don't need an AR department. I just got to send my mom there. Just say, hey, you bought from Ken. Send him the money. That's all you had to say. And we're good with that. So, funny times. And she didn't believe in that business, actually. You know what? Because
really?
During that time, this was during, like the e-commerce days was very new. Yeah. And when I was doing it, the company was switching from a catalog, which I actually made all my money back and probably profited some. This is when I was 17 years old. And it was moving into the online space. And my mom's like, Ken, you're telling me you can buy anything online? You think I can buy clothes online? Without even touching the clothes, without trying it on? It's never going to work.
We've all had those stories though, right? Like I remember when they first had you could take a picture with your phone. And I was like, that's so dumb. Who wants to take a picture with their phone? So wrong. Twitter. I was like, what a dumb idea, Twitter.
I had a great business idea at the time, and I don't think I would have. You guys would have funded me if this happened today. But back then, I think I was at a gym, and I saw this thing. It was called Pronto Reminder Services, and it is exactly what it sounds like. So for a monthly fee, it would just be someone reminding the client of whatever, whether that's through pager, phone, I guess pager or phone, because I can't imagine you would try to send a fax during that time, to just remind them of anything, whether it's personal appointments or anything like that. So yeah, I don't think that would make a good business case nowadays, David. I don't think. So if a client came up to you, all right, I need $350,000, David. What's your business? A reminder services. How are you going to do it? I am going to phone people or page them.
Probably not.
Yeah, and see, David is shaking his head. Like, you can have the cleanest bank statement. That ain't going to work. That ain't going to work at all. So
now it's time for the rapid fire round.
All right, let's get to the rapid fire round now. So this is obviously more of a relaxed one out of all the serious business talk that we've had so far. So, all right, question number 1. What would the 15-year-old self be thinking you'd be doing right now?
Thinking I would be doing, wanted to be prime minister. Thinking I would be doing, I don't know, but I definitely thought it would be in politics.
Really?
Mhm.
Well, you might be a better prime minister than what we have right now. So, hey, I'd vote for you. But anyways, yeah, I think for most people, yeah, it's a hard one. They'll say pro athlete or anything like that. But the sad part is, like, you have a couple of kids, right?
Yeah, 3 kids.
3 kids. And how old are they, if you don't mind me asking?
21, 18, and 16.
Okay, so mine's a little bit younger. Mine's going to be 10 and 12. And if you ask the kids of today, what do they want to do? And I'm sure you know what the answer would generally be. Social
media influencer?
Or a YouTuber.
Right.
My son is going to be starting his own YouTube channel soon. And it's going to be him playing video games. That's pretty much all it is.
I don't get it, but...
Well, you know what? And the funny thing too, for the March break that's coming up, for those who are not familiar in Canada here, we have a March break for your high school or grade school. They have a week off in March. It's similar to spring break. If you think about like the U.S. states, the college universities, they have like a spring break. And I decided to try to put my son in a esports camp. Now, if you're familiar with esports, David?
Yeah.
I don't know why, because I'm trying to get him off the screen, but he's going to be starting his own YouTube channel, and I'm going to put him in a video game camp. So what the hell's wrong with me, I'm thinking? But that's a funny thing there. So yeah, that's what he wants to do. All right, next question. What is something you hate, but you wish you loved?
Yeah, these are really good questions. Something I hate that I wished I loved. I can't think of anything.
What do you hate generally? I'll start with that.
Like in terms of food, in terms
anything.
of...
I always have a broad thing. I'm not too specific. I'm like, because I want my listeners to really understand David from all facets, not just the small money lender and stuff like that. Just to get him to know as a person.
Okay, I hate working out.
Really?
Yeah.
So
wish I loved it.
You wish you loved it. Yeah, you know what? I used to be a personal trainer, but I have those days too that I don't like it either. And for me, I joke around that it's something that my wife and kids are into Wordle, which I still don't understand to this point. Apparently there's this new game that my wife's really into. It's called Watermelon. I have no clue what that is either. And durian fruit. I don't know if you've had durian before.
Nope.
Yeah, you're not missing out on anything. The pitch to people to try it is that it tastes like heaven, but smells like hell. It's one of those stinky fruits that apparently tastes good. To me, it don't. I've tried it several times. They cannot sell me on it no matter what. But all right, next question here. Who would you like to sit on a 15-hour flight with and why? Living or dead?
Another really, really good question. I think I would love to sit next to Richard Branson. Unbelievable entrepreneur, businessman, seems like an interesting human philanthropist. I just, a lot of respect for him. And, as an entrepreneur at heart, he's one of the best there's been. And, I think him.
Nice. There's 2 people, both one living, one dead. So unfortunately for the one who's passed away is actually my late father. I would have loved to be on a flight with him again and just to really pick his brain on why he didn't throw me out of the house through the window when I was younger. Right. To get his fatherly advice now that I'm a father, like asking, how did you do it? How did you not strangle me when I was that young? Or just when I'm going through something, like, man, how did you deal with that? That would be one. The second one, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, just for the fact that for anyone who's been successful, who's grinding so hard to the fact that when they don't have to, like, it's very similar maybe to Richard Branson. Like, it's not that he has no money. He's made more money than probably a lot of us. but they still are, first one in the morning, last one to leave. So what is that drive? Because I think for majority of people, maybe I could be wrong, is that we want to hit that financial comfort zone of, okay, I got screw you money that I can do whatever I want and I don't have to stress and work so hard, so I can try to relax and all that sort of stuff. Those are the ones I'd probably ask. So, all right, last couple of questions here. I always ask this to all my guests. What is on your sandwich and what would you call it?
What is on my sandwich and what would I call it? Most likely turkey, cucumber, olives, maybe a little thin spread of hummus, in a pita wrap, and I would call it the Mediterranean Dave.
The Mediterranean Dave. Loved it. Put on a shirt. All right, so last question here on this rapid fire round here. What is your theme song and why? So you're walking down the street, you're walking to your building, that song hits. Everyone knows David's coming.
The Coldplay song, Sky Full of Stars.
Ooh, that's a nice one. That's a nice one. Excellent. So, all right, so last question here, or two last questions, sorry. Any other advice you want to give to anyone, whether they're trying to start to follow in your footsteps or just to maybe start a business of their own?
Yeah, I get asked this question a lot, and I think I always come back to two things. One, make sure you surround yourself with the right people and good people who complement you, who bring a different skill set and a different thinking, so you get the best decisions. And then the second thing is even if you're bootstrapping a startup business, make sure you're capitalized enough to at least give yourself enough time and runway and not too much stress to get things off the ground. I think to me, those are two, and obviously having a mission and a focus and all that, but good people who complement you and enough capital to at least give yourself the best shot at success.
So where can people reach out to you if they want to pick your brain or they want to do any questions on OnDeck?
Yeah, so you can come online to ondeck.ca, and if you want to reach out to me, it's my last name, D, then my last name, Souaid at ondeck.ca.
Awesome. So, all right, David, it was an awesome episode. Thanks for being on.
Ken, thank you so much. It was really fun.
Hey, do you need an error-free website? Do you need transcription that's accurate and on time? Would you like to remove noise from your video or audio recording? Do you need a spokesperson for your business? If so, we can help. At Northway Capital Group, we are happy to announce that we are now providing website testing services, audio transcriptions, and audio cleanup, as well as spokesperson services. We would love to help you on your next project. Contact us for more information at northwaycapitalgroup@gmail.com.
Hey you, do you need a voiceover? Well, look no farther. Northway Capital Group has your answer. Commercials and explainer videos, AVR and voicemail, health and wellness, corporate training and e-learning, announcements, documentaries, and biography. Contact us on social media or email us at northwaycapitalgroup@gmail.com. Thank you for listening to the S.M.E Stories podcast, which is owned by Northway Capital Group. Please follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Northway Capital Group.